You already know that AstroTurf is at the top of the game when it comes to the turf industry. And we've harnessed our history of innovation to kick off a real game changer, the RootZone, uniquely engineered to tackle the dreaded infill dilemma. What's RootZone? This guy is your #1 draft choice. He's specifically designed for infill stability. Think about your modern synthetic field, full of granules of infill, brushed into the surface, so players have a platform for performance no matter what their game is. Those infill granules are loose. This can cause serious headaches for your players. They'll get tripped up by splash and flyout. Plus, infill migration, that's when all those loose infill granules move from the center of the field to the sidelines. Means your players are at greater risk of sustaining concussions and other injuries because their field is less cushioned. And now your field is unpredictable and less uniform, which affects player performance. Unfortunately, this problem grows worse over time. So eventually, you'll be looking at maintenance, fibers susceptible to UV damage, and early field replacement. Talk about penalties. Nobody's a fan of laziness on the field, but the polyethylene fibers that make up most of your artificial turf, they're pretty lazy. They tend to mat down and lay over. If you want them to stand upright, you have to load your field with tons of infill. RootZone fibers are the opposite. Heroes on the field, able to stand upright and stay upright. That helps with key game time factors like traction and ball roll. Plus, it keeps your field looking good for years to come. The RootZone is available with nylon, which inherently has a very high glass transition temperature, which means its chemical properties force it to hold its shape when texturized. AstroTurf applies a crimped texture to the nylon. That way, it will draw down to the perfect height, coil into a spring shape, and form a net-like matrix to stabilize the infill. Stabilizing RootZone fibers work to hold up lazy PE fibers to trap loose infill and to dissipate energy. Better shock absorption means less of a jolt when players land on the field. Add RootZone to traditional pile, and you're adding bulk overall. In fact, RootZone puts over 5 tons of fiber into an average field. This is a major touchdown when it comes to player safety. An independently funded study at Michigan State showed that RootZone enhances player safety by reducing peak torque levels. Torque is the twisting force exerted on knees and ankles when players plant their feet and turn on the surface. Minus RootZone systems are less dense, and cleats are planted too deeply into sand and rubber. That means higher levels of torque, and that leads to higher levels of ACL tears and ankle injuries. RootZone's low peak torque readings are pretty similar to those of natural grass, and back to that great memory nylon fibers have. You might pay a little more up front to add the RootZone, but it's a great investment in player safety and field stability, because nylon fibers keep their spring and shape for season after season, instead of getting flattened and matted after every game. Whether your goal is enhanced safety or peak performance, we all know that a more uniform, predictable surface with less infill splash and migration makes for a better game. Take a leap into the RootZone with AstroTurf's sophisticated technology. Our long history as an industry leader gives you a real game changer, perhaps the most significant improvement in turf in the last decade, specifically engineered for optimal player performance and safety. The RootZone is a winning choice that will give your field a competitive edge.